So we'll give ourselves a few more minutes. Morning, Liz. I just see you now. Happy Wednesday, everybody. It's hump day. We're going to get through it. So Alex and Liz, I know we didn't have a chance to chat this morning. Did you all want to meet later? Thank you all for turning on your cameras. I love seeing you. Maybe we'll wait one more minute to allow late folks to come in. I know it's hard. It's like the first session of the morning. We're missing a few people, right? I don't see Samantha on here. Daisy, where's Daisy? Nope, not on here. I'm starting to get to know folks. All right, awesome. Well, it's 9:05, so maybe we can get started. Welcome to session number 2 with advising. I am excited to see you all. I do want to say that yesterday I had a lot of folks jump into drop-ins, and like, you all are just phenomenal. Like, literally amazing. I had such a great time getting to know everyone. I'm glad that like first day jitters are gone, because I was asking folks like, why didn't you come and see me on day 1? And they're like, we were just really scared. So I thought that was really funny. And so I hope now that you all are getting to know me and Alex and Liz and getting that reassurance that we're here to support you. I hope those first day jitters are kind of gone, and you all would be open to zooming in with me today. I want to resend the Zoom in scheduling. My computer is so slow, so please be patient with me. I probably need to restart this whole thing and start over. But some of you accidentally signed up for the day before. So I want to go over the Excel sheet one more time just to make sure that we're all on the same page. But let me resend it. If everyone can open it, well, if you have access to open it on your computer, if everyone can open it and potentially save it to your desktop or anything that needs to be done. But if we look, I'm going to share my screen actually. So if we look here, there's tabs for each day on the bottom. So today is Wednesday. So here's my Wednesday appointments. And if you click on the next tab, that's tomorrow, Thursday. If we click on the next tab, it's Friday. So typically it might be organized in a different way, but this is how they wanted us to organize it. So you don't scroll down for more days, you scroll to the side for more days. So for those who haven't seen me, I've got plenty of appointments today. Yesterday was all taken up. So for those who were really eager and really followed those instructions to come through yesterday, I just want to say I really appreciate it. I had a really just phenomenal time getting to know you, understanding your goals, helping you rethink your majors, helping you potentially looking at your degree plans. So I had a really great time with folks yesterday. And usually at the end of my sessions, for those who've been in sessions with me, I ask, do you have any additional questions? And I always make time, even if I'm running over, to get any additional questions that you have. So I hope that you know when you come in with your questions, because we'll get them answered. And did you get everything you needed out of our time together? Those are really the two primary questions I ask. And I always want to make sure that you all leave our time feeling 100% whole and feeling really complete about everything that you need to, and all the tools and resources that you need to be a successful college student. So I hope that can reassure you. Also, if you don't have any questions, because some folks zoomed in and they're like, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I guess we're going to have a conversation. That's totally okay too. And we have plenty to talk about because we're basically starting from scratch. So we literally started from scratch. Like, what is college? What do we do here? How are we going to navigate through next semester? So, and that's okay too. So I just want to reassure you that if you come in with everything, if you have questions about everything that you need, let's go for it. If you have questions, if you don't have any questions, we'll move through. And basically, you all are going to end up in the same place. You're going to end up in the same place. And the same place is graduation. You're going to end up to the finish line. And the finish line is getting that degree. So whether you feel 100% prepared or don't feel prepared, the point is that you're here. You're zooming in on a Wednesday at 9 a.m. But you're participating in Summer Bridge. So you're gonna end up in the same place. So don't feel any obligation to want to put extra stress on yourself. I think that's 100% not necessary. So please come in. Here, I see everyone. I see people that are on here. Can folks share with me? Either you can unmute and talk, or give me that thumbs up. Can folks share with me that you have access to plug in your name? Thank you, Haley. Thanks, Grace. Thank you, thank you. Thanks, Emily, Elizabeth, Alejandra. Cool. Thank you, y'all. Thank you. All right, awesome, awesome. So I just wanted to kind of review that. My goal is I really want to get folks in by Friday. So as many students in by Friday would be ideal, so we can make sure that we're ready and prepared for registration next week. I do have some like preliminary things that I need to go over. After I go over those like general announcements, I do want to just throw it out there in the floor because for some general discussion. I have some talking points that I want to make, but I wanted to just have a little bit more participation today from folks. Yesterday, I talked to a lot of you, and you all seemed really eager to like move on to the next step. You all really wanted to know, like, we want to start preparing for fall. We want to know what the classes are going to look like. You all are just like ready and eager. So they wanted us to start from basics today, like, what does it mean? What does it mean to be a successful college student? But I think a lot of that your bridge leaders can really touch on. I think I would like to have a discussion around like what you all believe that would mean and how to prepare better for the fall. So I wanted to state that too. And let's see, make sure I don't forget anything. Okay, I think that's all the general announcements I had to make. I wanted to hear from you all, maybe at least 3 participants. I wanted to hear how things are going so far. It's day 3. So if I can have like 3 folks maybe unmute, and then let's see how that goes first. 3 folks unmute, and I just want to hear a little bit like, how is Summer Bridge going? How are things going so far? Are we meeting your expectations? And yeah, I want to hear some general thoughts. Just to make sure we're on the right track. Because if I need to adjust anything, I'm totally open to doing that. So can I get 3 folks to let me know? Challenge by choice. Would you all want me to unmute you?
What was I gonna say? Okay, so I am happy about Summer Bridge because I was afraid to start classes with knowing nobody. So I'm glad I got to know more people like while I'm going to start fall, because I also wasn't going to live over there because of what's going on, not because of in general. Because I did want to live over there, but I'm glad I got to know some people before my classes started, because I feel a lot better about starting the fall semester without being so like scared about what's to come, and now I know what's going to come. So yeah.
For sure. Well, can you remind me how to pronounce your name so I can say it properly?
It's Crescencia.
Crescencia. Thank you, Crescencia. Appreciate
Yeah.
that. So what I heard you say is that so far it's going really well because you feel really prepared for potentially what's to come in the fall. I do want to note that that makes a lot of sense. And in the fall, most of our classes are going to be online. So what you're participating in now in terms of math and English and how you're feeling out the class, how you're engaging with your professor, that's going to be practically similar to what you'll see in the fall. Most students, actually any student besides those who go to Summer Bridge, will not have had, most freshmen actually, would not have had the experience that you all had in terms of what it means to be in a remote classroom. So all students who do not participate in Summer Bridge will not have that experience, but you all are getting that experience in advance in terms of what it means to be in a class online. And I was looking at most of everyone's schedules who zoomed in with me in preparation for fall, and most of us are pre-enrolled in classes, which means that the university has prepared particular class sections and classes that you will need in the fall. So most freshmen, it's policy that most freshmen will have a math, will have an English, and will have a freshman transition course. The English is based on your scores, transcripts, and so is your math. The math is also has a secondary evaluation, which would be your major. For the freshman transition course, we don't know who the professor is yet. However, that class is really focused on ensuring that you get all the resources remotely that the university has. So in addition to your exposure to those resources in Summer Bridge, you will have every week a new segment and go in depth to every single resource on campus. What those resources may or may not look like is potentially learning more about the Diversity Center and the Hub and the Tutoring Center, the Math Center, CASE, what the Civil Service Center means, more around financial aid, confidential advocacy, and every week we'll have a new segment around and activities around what it means to transition as a freshman. I see the chat in here that it looks like our professor got assigned to us. Yes, so our professor will be Alexis Shapiro for University 102. Thank you, Liz. For Alex and Liz, can you all share, or unless you have already, can you all share what it means to be in University 102? And Alex, maybe you could share a little bit more about what your goals are in terms of being a peer mentor. Can you all hear Alex? This was around that grace that we give each other with new technology. While we're waiting, oh, there we go. We still can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
We can, now we can.
I don't know. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Well, you can't hear us?
No, now we can.
Okay.
Oh, you can just say it.
That was the best.
Okay, so to go off of the Unit 102 class, just like you said, it was a great class for us to be with our cohort and to go over certain topics. Like I know that we went over alcohol and drug use and like how to like stay safe and to not get yourself into those situations where you can get harmed or you can get in trouble with those things because those are prohibited on campus. But to talk about my goals for this cohort is I really just want us to all feel like a big family, because that's kind of the connection that I built with my cohort. And it's like Liz, she was my peer mentor, and she just made it like a great class, and like she helped foster an environment where like we could all be ourselves and we could all talk to each other in a safe environment. So I'll let Liz talk more about her experience.
Okay, so like for me, Unit 102 was like really cool too, because like my peer mentor, she was like involved, but like I wanted to be even more involved with my students. So like when I became a peer mentor, I kind of like made that environment where the professor and I like talked about things that went into like a deeper connection of what college students actually go through. So like they're prepared for like, you know, roommate arguments or feeling not included on campus or finding out what they can be involved in on campus. Because that's what Unit 102 is for. It's just like understanding like how you can like develop a safe community on campus and like fitting in or finding like your group of people or just being safe in general as a college student and trying to find out like successful tips for studying or like study habits and just understanding like what it's like to adapt from being a high school student to a college student. And that's pretty much it.
That's perfect, Liz. A lot of students were able to, had the opportunity to ask me what is University 102. And so I wanted to allow Alex and Liz to describe that a little bit. Thank you, you two, appreciate it. So Crescencia mentioned like feeling more prepared. So yes, that is the ultimate goal, is to make sure that you all are feeling more prepared. And so you all, everyone in this Zoom room, including those who are potentially absent today, so everyone in this cohort, these two groups, will be enrolled in that university freshman transition course together. So we will continue the relationships that we build all the way until the end of academic year. The University 102 class is actually a year-long class. So you'll have it in fall, and then you'll actually wrap it up in spring. Now, your English class, most of you are pre-enrolled in an English class. And your English professor will be Professor Stephanie that you have right now for the reading and writing segment of Summer Bridge. So you also get to continue that relationship with Stephanie. I'm going to encourage most of us to please, as Stephanie has drop-in hours, to ensure that you're in those drop-in hours and to kind of develop that professor-student relationship with her early, because she's gonna continue that on into the end of the calendar year, and so into the end of fall. So that's a great bonus for us, because not a lot of cohorts have that. They don't have that consistency, but we for sure have that consistency. We have that consistency with Alex being our peer mentor, and we have that consistency with Stephanie continuing to be our professor for English. Now for math, most of us are pre-enrolled in math. We may or may not be with each other or other Summer Bridge students, because math is also determined by your major. So I just wanted to let you all know, averagely, most of you are pre-enrolled in approximately 3 classes, which means next week, when we do registration, we only have 2 classes. So next week's registration is going to be a lot easier because EOP has prepared you with that pre-enrollment. Now for the classes that are pre-enrolled, we should not be changing out of our class unless it's an emergency, like unless it's really urgent, and then we have to get pre-approval with some folks. So if there is something that's gonna get in the way of your academics, please let me know like early and often, so I can make sure that I can get that pre-approval done for you. But there shouldn't be that many folks moving out of the English class or the university class. Now for next fall, most freshmen will not be moving into the dorms. So most freshmen will be having remote online learning. And so it's nice that we're getting that like first glimpse, that first taste here during summer bridge. Now, for remote online learning, there's two modalities, they call it, two ways that professors can potentially do that for us. So one of the ways that they could do that is similar to how summer bridge is run, which is really ideal for freshmen. So it would be some work on your own and some meetings at a set Zoom ID with a set time. So what you might see on your schedule is that you'll see like Monday and Tuesday, maybe 10 to 2 or 10 to 12 or however that may look. So you will have Monday and Tuesdays online from that time, and then you will see online. So that's up to your professor. So your professor has chosen to make sure that everyone gets on Zoom exactly at the same time, and there's some work on your own. Now, there's a second modality. There's a second way that professors can choose to run their class, which means that everything is on your own. So it's fully online, fully on Canvas. So when we prepare for registration for next week, I'll show you exactly where you would see those two things. So if you see a date and time, that means classes are meeting during those dates and times, most days, not all days. And some of those assignments will be on your own. Now, if you do not see a date and time, you just see a professor and it says online, that means it's all going to be on your own. So I just wanted to let you all know in preparation for that. So Crescencia, thank you for saying your comment, because it allowed me to think about all the conversations that I've been having with students during one-on-ones yesterday and the day before. And so I wanted to make sure that we made that note. I'm going to pause for So I wanted to allow, because I know I mentioned I wanted 3 students to kind of chime in and let me know if this is working and give me some feedback. So Crescencia, thank you for being the first brave student to participate. Can I get another student to unmute and let me know, like, give me some feedback. Is this working?
Well, I thought that this summer bridge was gonna be more like just meetings from the mentors instead of students interacting with each other. So I think that surpassed my expectations for this, which I'm pretty happy about because I'm like a social person, but a little awkward. So it would be very good for me to make friends before going on campus.
For sure. Thank you, Emily. So what I heard is that you all assumed that we were just going to be on Zoom for like 4 hours a day listening to us yip yap the whole time. So I'm really glad to know that that we really attempted to incorporate those who are incorporate some interaction with students and making sure that you all are talking to each other and ensuring that you all start some friendships with each other. What's really interesting is that I remember when we first decided to go remote, a lot of students were feeling really disappointed and feeling like, well, I'm not going to get the actual college experience. And I don't know if you all felt that way, but I took some time to reflect on that and think about the past 4 or 5 years that I have brought in a cohort of first-time freshmen. And summer bridge has always been like a wonderful experience. But once we get into the fall, there's a lot of transitions that summer bridge has prepared students for, but there's a lot of things that you actually don't know until you know, right? You all know what I mean. It's like you could have prepared for high school like 1,000 different ways, but you don't know what high school is until you're actually in it. And in college, there is multiple transitions. There's a transition around like living someplace new and not seeing familiar faces anymore, which is actually super hard. There's a transition around making new friends. So you have to reestablish the relationship that you have with your current friends, like friends at home, and figure out how you want to maintain those relationships over the phone and maybe see them over the weekends, and at the same time, making new friends on campus. There's a transition with your family. So the way in which you interact with your family is going to be completely different because you're not going to be living with them or seeing them every day. And for most students, that's super difficult. There's a transition in learning. Like learning in college is completely different than learning in high school. High school's typical schedule is 8 to 3, 8 to 2 every day. College is a really on your own schedule. Besides the fact that we pre-enroll you in classes for freshman year, it's an on your own schedule. So you could have classes at potentially 8 o'clock at night and as early as 7 o'clock in the morning. And it's all going to depend on the faculty and which class you choose. And you typically don't have like 6 periods or 7 periods. You're averagely going to have approximately maybe 4 classes a semester. There's a transition in terms of new location, like what Sonoma County has to offer and what your hometown has to offer are like 2 completely different things. So there's multiple transitions in terms of what it means to be a college student. And for most college students, those are really, really hard. And I appreciate Emily saying like you all are helping us make those transitions just a little bit easier. I actually think in reflecting and thinking about freshmen feeling like it might be hard to not have that full move-in college experience in the fall. I actually think when you think about the different layers of what it means to be a college student and all the multiple transitions that you will encounter potentially in the fall, I actually think transitioning online to in-person actually makes those transitions a little bit easier. We're going to layer those transitions for you. So now you know what it means to interact with a professor. You can have friends before you step into campus, and you'll meet them here over Zoom. You'll get to know your peer mentor throughout the summer, including Summer Bridge. And you'll get to do that in the comfort of your own home, in your pajamas. You get to just wear a nice top and wear whatever bottoms you want to wear. And you get to do that and at your own pace. And then we'll dive into those transitions in the, actually the full-on experience in the spring. And it'll make that difficulty of like trying to layer on all those things all at once a lot easier. So at this point, you'll get to, it'll be like this. So you'll actually, the transition to college will actually layer on into your experience in terms of being at home. So it doesn't have to all layer on at once, which I think is a really important note to make. There's no other class in the history of freshmen. There is no other class in the history of freshmen that are going to have this, that have had this experience before you, that have been able to have friends before they go into college, that have been able to understand how it is to interact with professors online, that have been able to do all this, yet in the comfort of their own home. And then once you get into the spring, I think we talked about this a little bit with me and the peer mentors. It's going to feel like we met, but we never really met because we don't really know how much energy we all take up in a room. We don't know what we all technically look like besides this little like box, you know. We don't know how tall we are. We don't know like what kind of like face-to-face interaction we'll have. But we won't be as nervous, right? Because it's like, oh yeah, like Christian, I know how you interact with me online. So actually I'm gonna have a little bit of familiarity when I actually see you in person. So it kind of gives us like a pre-college experience. And so as freshmen were talking to me about having it like not having that full move in, I'm like, this is such a unique experience. There's so much positive things we can take out of just being here remotely. And I actually think this is probably one of the best things that can happen, especially during a worldwide pandemic, especially considering all the things that are going on in terms of social justice. It's like we have an opportunity to pre-prepare ourselves to be full-fledged college students at a new year, which would be 2021. So I really appreciate Emily, saying, giving us that feedback, because I wanted to note that's something I've really took time to reflect on, and I hope that resonates with you all. We don't know what it is until we get there, but this can help us prepare even more so once we actually get there in the spring and do like an official move-in. Thanks for allowing me to go on my rant. Can I get one more student to give us some feedback around whether or not this is working? Don't force us to call on you.
I'll go. I would say that this is working really well. Like I really enjoyed the conversations I've had so far with like the students and also like the leaders and you. Like it's really been able to like help the transition be better because having that one-on-one is really what I enjoy when I'm meeting people. Like I'm more of a one-on-one type of person than a group. So when we have those one-on-ones, or when I'm talking to like the leaders, or when I'm seeing like Alex Instagram live, like it's fun to watch and all that. So yeah, it's been really good and fun, and like it's making it more exciting and less nerve-wracking. So yeah, it's working. So
Nice. Thank you, Jacqueline. So what you really appreciate is having that one-on-one time with folks and ensuring that we get to know each other in different ways. So that's awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. I wanted to share a little bit around basic ways to be successful online learners, because that's what the fall is really going to look like. And then if we have time today, I wanted to see if we can break us up into groups and be able to ask some, share out on some experiences that we'll have. Let me see if I can bring it up. So give me a second. Cool. And before I do that, since it took us a little while to participate in my question, I feel like, should we break out into, Alex is like, whatever you're going to say, yes. Sure. I was thinking we could break out into an icebreaker. I wanted to see if we could do like a quick icebreaker popcorn style before we do like the formal, before we do the formal, like here are some tips to be successful college students. I wanted to break us up into either groups and or get us participating in an icebreaker. Are you guys down for that before we get into the next? Okay, cool. I was thinking we could do an icebreaker around our spirit animal. We can re-remind each other of our names and maybe talk about like what our favorite spirit animal is. Like what's the animal, like what's your favorite animal? What's the animal that like you all really connect with? I think, unless you all have done that already. Okay. Do you think that's a good idea to move forward with that for now? Okay, cool. So I think we should do that first before we go into more formal. Let's break up the hour for a little bit. So for example, I'll start off. My spirit animal, what animal gets me like the most excited, are peacocks. I really appreciate how they look. I think they're beautiful. And I like how every time I see one, I actually live on a farm in Petaluma. So they sometimes fly into my property. And every time I see one, it looks like they're actually doing a dance. And it gets me in a good mood because, especially during like shelter in place, I don't feel like I actually get up at any point in time. I'm usually stuck on my computer. So when I actually get up and go outside and see one in my backyard, it's like it gets me moving. And I love the colors. I love how they look. And I've always liked peacocks in terms of just the way they look and how they move. So that's really that's my favorite animal. And if I would transition into an animal, a peacock would be it. I'm gonna popcorn to Alex.
So I would probably say that my spirit animal would be an octopus. Just because like octopus has like 8 arms, so they're always like they're able to do like a lot of things at once. And like that's kind of like how I am in general. Like I'm always like we'll be talking, but like we may be talking and I'll be doing something else like while we're talking, or like I'll be at work. I'm able to multitask really well. So like I'm always moving too. So it's just like I relate to an octopus a lot. So I will popcorn to Liz.
I would say my spirit animal is, okay, I know it's basic, but a butterfly. Just because like there's a lot of growth with like butterflies, starting from like a caterpillar and then into a butterfly. So like as a freshman, like I didn't really know what I was doing, but like now I do know what I'm doing, and like I love to travel, just like butterflies. They fly everywhere. I like to be free. But yeah, that's my spirit animal, and I'm gonna call on or popcorn to Christian.
My spirit animal would be a deer because they get startled easily. I'll popcorn over to Jackie.
I don't really know what my spirit animal would be. I feel like I would just choose a wolf because I know they can be very loyal and they're like very family oriented with the pack and all that. So I feel like I am like that. Yeah, so I'll choose Grace.
I think my spirit animal would probably be a lion because they just seem so like powerful and they're just so aesthetically like they're so gorgeous. I love lions. So I'll popcorn to Alejandra.
I would say my spirit animal would be an elephant. I just really like how they're always like with like their family or their group, and I'm very like family oriented, so I would say I would relate a lot to an elephant. I would go to Haley.
Mine would probably be a sea otter. I don't really know why. I just really like them. They're just cute and playful. So yeah. Rebecca.
I don't know what my spirit animal would be, but I feel like my friends would tell me that my spirit animal is a chicken just because I'm really loud when I'm with them. And yeah, so I'm gonna pass it on to Elizabeth.
I don't know what my spirit animal is, but I guess a dog because it's loyal. And I pass to Owen.
For my spirit animal, I would choose a cuttlefish. There's something really deep about them in terms of like my connection to them. I just think they're really cool and like how they can change color, and like their way of adapting to their environment. I'll choose Ronaldo.
My favorite animal would be a wolf. They travel in packs and they look out for each other. And I like being part of a friend group or a family that cares for each other. So yeah. And I'll popcorn over to Crescencia.
I think my spirit animal would be cheetah because my nickname at home is Cheetah, and it sounds like cheetah, and I just have always I don't know why I like that animal so much. But yeah, and they seem like very loyal animals, just like any other animal, like those ones, and they're also endangered, so I think that's really important. But yeah, I'll popcorn to Aileen.
I think my spirit animal would be a dolphin because I really like how they bring like joy to people, and like they like I've never actually seen dolphins in person, but I feel like they're like laughing and like happy, and like they get to swim around in the water, and yeah, I think that's pretty cool. So I'll popcorn over to Elsie.
I would say my spirit animal is a giraffe. I feel really tall. Like I know I'm probably not that tall. Like I'm 5'7", like compared to other people, but I just feel really, really tall. So I would say my spirit animal is a giraffe. Oh, and I'll popcorn to Tony.
I'd say my spirit animal is a tiger. I don't know, I've always just really liked tigers. And then I also like Frosted Flakes a lot, so people always call me like Tony the Tiger, like as a joke or something. And then I'll popcorn to Rebecca.
I already went.
Oh. And then I'll popcorn to whoever hasn't gone.
Oh shoot, I haven't gone. But my spirit animal would be a penguin because like they're always in the community and I like being involved and talking to new people. Did you go, Elizabeth?
Yeah, I did.
I haven't gone, so I'll go. I think I would be a raccoon because I like to snack a lot and I like to sleep, but also I'm very active at night, so yeah. I don't know who else hasn't gone.
Christian, you went, right? I think everyone went, yeah? Alex, Ronaldo, Wolfpack. Yes, I think I remember everyone. All right, awesome, awesome. Okay, so I know we only have a few minutes left and I actually had more on my agenda that I wanted to get to. I just texted your professors and told them we might be running a little bit late. So hopefully that's a good thing. I wanted to show you all, I just want to engage us in a little bit of conversation. I wanted to show you a list of just tips in terms of being a college student. And I wanted to break us out for 5 minutes and see if we can discuss that list together. Oh, perfect. So yeah, they're going to give us some extra time. Because I feel like the breakout groups will work really well because a lot of you really enjoyed them yesterday. So I wanted to share my screen and show you that. Thank you for engaging me in an icebreaker too. I appreciate it. I felt like we needed to break up this lecture a little bit. Let me share my screen. Okay, so these tips have actually been given to us by a student right now who works with me. He is a graduate student, so he's earning his master's, and his whole program is online. And because we're just kind of like working with the time that we have to transition online, I actually thought this was a good list. It's not something that's generated online. It's not something that somebody kind of made up and this threw on the internet. It's actually like a lived experience from one of my colleagues. This has actually been the best list that I've seen so far, honestly, in terms of like trying to make sure that I'm prepared to be an online learner too, as my career has entirely changed online. So I thought this was pretty good. One of the first things that he mentioned to us was making sure that we reach out to our professors early and often. And you've heard me say that phrase, like early and often, make sure you check in. Because, well, one, it's really, really important to establish relationships with your professors. It's really easy to do that when you see your professors actually in person. So figuring out your professor's Zoom in, drop in hours, their Zoom ID, checking in on your assignments, making sure that you're doing it right because you're not going to have that in-person interaction with them is going to probably the most vital thing in terms of your academic success. Typically, we recommend making sure that you see your professors as often as you can in conjunction with your advisors. You all are EOP students, so EOP students have like a bonus. You all have, general students just have one advisor, and that one advisor would be their major advisor. For EOP students, you all have two advisors. So you have a GE advisor, so a general education advisor, which is going to be me, and then you also have an advisor with your major. If you have multiple majors or multiple minors, then you'll have an advisor for each major you have and or each minor that you have. So for freshman year, we recommend that you see your academic advisor a minimum of 3 times your first semester. What we do is break up your EOP grant. So you all get a grant as part of being in this program, and that supplements your financial aid package. We break up your grant, so we give you 1/2 of the grant at the beginning of the semester, and we break up the second half as long as you see us 3 times. So we're basically paying you to come see us. We're paying you to get a service from us. So that's part of seeing your instructors and advisors as early as possible. We want to make sure too that you find like a consistent space to study. Actually, like studies have shown that if you ensure that you have like a learning environment in your house, it could be anything. It could be a corner, it could be a couch, and that becomes the consistent space that once you get into that space actually mentally turns into the study space for you. And it will be functional as if it was a study space, as if it was like you being on campus. I'm sure most of you have that because that's part of the initial piece I was discussing earlier. Like your transition into college might be a little bit easier because you might have had a space at home. Make sure it's a consistent space that you could use throughout the fall semester. We also mentioned being organized, which is something that you're going to do when you see classes in person. Being organized, but it's like basically like making sure that you know how many classes you're taking, when everything is due. I really appreciate that your professor showed you what a syllabus is and how to function with syllabi. Syllabuses or syllabi is, they showed you like the document where everything is, every single class that you will be enrolled in will have that. And so one of the first things I tell my students every semester is collect all your syllabi and make sure you put in every single assignment into your calendar. And you all can actually use the Google Calendar that Sonoma State paid for on your My SSU. And I can show you that as the weeks to come. We see here being efficient, so making sure that you're actually like using the chat boxes in your classes. Being encouraging with your classmates, so that's part of the thumbs up, the claps that we're using, because it's actually really, really hard to interact online. One, we don't really know like the social and emotional, like we don't have a gauge of what that looks like. So the only way we can engage and figure out like, is what I'm saying landing? Am I making any sense? Is if folks like digitally interact with each other. Like I don't even know if what I'm saying is making sense, right? And none of your professors really know because it's hard to kind of gauge faces online. So it's going to be important that we give each other feedback digitally. It's going to be super, super, super easy to go online and kind of give yourself like distraction breaks. I think what's worked really, really well with students is like making sure that you give yourself a time block. So I have to do this too. Like I work for 2 straight hours and give myself maybe a 15-minute break on social media, maybe outside. Once that timer goes off, you got to eliminate that distraction and get back to what you were doing. It takes a lot of discipline. I can tell you from experience, but it's going to totally help you in the long run, and make sure that you plan out your day in that type of way. So putting on that timer is really a trick that a lot of my students have used, and it works as long as like as soon as the timer goes off, you put that phone away. something that works really well is making sure that you put in the time blocks in your calendar, similar to how you did in high school. It's like hour 1, this is what class I was in, hour 2, this is the class I'm in, and then planning out lunch and planning out breaks. And managing your time is part of those dedicated study blocks. And, you know, generally holding yourself accountable and making sure if you don't do something, you got to communicate that with your professors. Professors are actually really, really flexible in terms of due dates, as long as you communicate with them around like what the issues are. So I wanted to make sure to give you this list. Would it be helpful if I shared this over email? Or was everyone able to take some notes? Let me know, give me like a yes, share it over email, and or no, we got it. Okay, cool. I'll do that today. So I wanted to break us up for maybe 5 minutes, and I wanted us to take a little reflection and think about some of the things that we went over today. I know I talked a lot and I didn't mean to do that, but I wanted us to think about maybe any fears that we have around online learning, and or is there any positivities? Is there anything that's coming out that's a positive around that transition that we talked about in terms of online learning that will take us into the spring? So I just wanted us to take a few minutes and talk about that. I'm going to break folks up into groups around potentially, let's see here. Let's see if I can. It's going to be around 3 folks a group. Bridge leaders, or maybe Kyle might be in a group. But I'd like us to discuss generally, what are some fears that we have for next semester? And is there anything that we can reflect on, any gains that we can get from being online remote learners in anticipation for our first live semester, which would be spring of 2021? Take the conversation anywhere, but I'll give us maybe 5 minutes.
So I won't bounce into the room. I'll just hang tight out here.
Okay. Hey everyone, was that too much time or too little time or just right? Just right, perfect, perfect. Cool. So the theme of today was making sure that we can kind of dream about, think about, meditate about what it might mean for us to dive into the fall semester after summer bridge. I also wanted to do a pulse check around how things are going so far to see if I needed to make any adjustments in terms of what information I give to you. And I wanted to make sure that I gave you all a little bit of tools around how we can prepare to be online learners, because this is all new for all of us. So that was really my ultimate goal, and to get to know each other more, which is why we did the icebreaker. So I think I've touched on most of the goals that I wanted to accomplish today. Your professors have given me at least till 10:05 or so to start the next session. And I do want to make sure that you all get a 5-minute break too before the next session. So I wanted to hear back, maybe if we can get like a little bit of feedback around how that went. Did you meet a new person? And were you able to think about maybe some challenges that you might anticipate and maybe some gains in terms of like how you all can envision your first year as a college student? So if I could at least get maybe 2 different groups to kind of give us some feedback around how the conversation went, I'd really appreciate it.
I think the conversation went really well because we found like some fears in common. Like basically all of us were afraid of like procrastinating, and like especially since you're like at home, like I feel like it could be easier because you're like
Oh, I lost the volume. Can you all still hear Eileen? Eileen, we lost your volume. Can we try again? Unmute maybe one more time.
wait, what happened?
I don't know, but we lost you for a second. Can you repeat back maybe the last 2 sentences that you said?
I can't hear what you're saying. I'm sorry if it's my connection.
Can folks hear me? Oh, is there anyone that was in Eileen's breakout room that can?
I can kind of continue on. So like what
Thank
she
you,
was
Owen.
like, our group was kind of like in the same same boat on like, since we're at home, it'd be a little easier to kind of fall behind. Since we're in an environment to kind of calm down and like just do our homework, which was basically what home was. But like now, since we're doing this online learning, all the classwork, it'd be a little easier to kind of like fall behind. Yeah.
Did you all discuss ways that we can potentially help mitigate that? Like, can Sonoma State, me, your mentor, or each other help make sure that you all don't procrastinate? And that's question is to Owen or anyone in that group. Like, did you all discuss ways that we can mitigate that? We can like overcome that challenge? Okay. So we can discuss that too. Hopefully in tomorrow's session, we can talk about strategies that we can figure out together. Awesome. So Alex just put in that he'd be happy to facilitate some homework and study hours. And I think that's a really good solution to mitigate that potential procrastination. Did any other group want to share out how the breakout went? Any fears or any positivities that might come out of transitioning online?
My group suggested that, well, Liz said that to help us with the procrastinating, that we could set timers to like divide our classes and like make sure that we get what we need to get done. And on the positive side, Crescencia suggested that, said that since we are like just remotely learning, that it'd be easier to like email our teachers, or we're more like encouraged to email them, because in person we might like not do it or not talk to them, just like put it off. But since we're like online, we can just email them and make that connection with them.
Wow. Actually, that's actually pretty profound between you and Crescencia, because students, especially freshmen, get really, really nervous and scared about drafting emails to professors and any other staff. I think yesterday I was talking to one of us in the cohort, and I said, oh, I can do an introduction email to you and so. And they were like, absolutely not. I'm really scared. So I actually think that is a positive. You can create those connections earlier, and that fear can actually be mitigated because you can kind of jump over the in-person communication, dive right into email, get that familiarity going, and then potentially when you all see each other in person, you've already established a relationship. Thank you. That's a really good comment and really good feedback. Thank you, you all. Appreciate it. Well, thank you for indulging me in our second hour of group advising. I really appreciate it. Your professors have allowed you to take like a 5-minute or so break. You're still going to be on this Zoom ID, so don't leave. But you can leave yourself on mute, maybe turn off your cameras and come back in approximately 5 minutes. You'll hear Kyle and Stephanie say, hey, and start yelling at you all to come back in. So let's give each other at least 5 minutes. Nice to see you all. Have a great day. You don't have to leave the Zoom ID. Just put you and stop camera.
Hello, hello. How we doing? Give everybody like 2-3 more minutes. We'll shoot to start at like 10:15 if that works. While we wait for everyone else, if you want to have your annotated notes ready so that we can chat about your reading, that will be helpful. Hi, Professor.
I was excited to learn that today's theme was early 2000s. And so I made my virtual background be Napster.
I didn't know that was the theme.
I was going to make it be a MySpace profile, but you can't find those anymore.
Nice. Professor Kyle, are you going to stay with us for our Socratic seminar this morning?
Yeah, I'll be hanging out.
Cool. Have you read A Talk to Teachers by James Baldwin?
No.
No. I'll send it over to you. It's a great piece if you have some time. All right. Give me some thumbs up if we're all back and ready to start. How was our advising meeting this morning? Good. Don't we just love Amal? She's awesome, isn't she? Okay, I realized that yesterday I didn't give a chance to anyone if they happen to look up for a land acknowledgement, if they happen to look up where they are and wanted to share. I want to open the floor up before we get into our Socratic seminar. Thanks, Amal. Okay, so we are going to just jump right in because I've got quite a bit I want to cover. So as I had mentioned, we first off, I looked through your annotations and I was so impressed with those of you that took photos and sent them to me. Thank you so much. For those of you that didn't submit anything, if you could just follow suit, that was like, I should have suggested that before I left yesterday. If you could just take a picture of your page and submit that on there. I made it open until the end of this evening, so that way I can give you feedback or just see where we're at. But from those of you that submitted your annotations, they look amazing. I loved seeing how you numbered the paragraphs so that we can reference them when we're talking in our discussion today. Some of you did great summaries of every paragraph, right? Just a quick little excerpt about what it was or what it addressed. I loved your feedback of what you thought about the different pieces. So let's start off by making sure your chat is open. And if everyone could enter a question or a topic into that group chat, something that really stuck out to you or that really that you would like to address or talk about today in our discussion, that would be great. So let's start there. I'm going to give you a chance to kind of revisit your text and take a look at it, have it there so we can so it can be a part of our conversation. And Haley's, I think, Pomo, where are you, Haley? Oh, you were in Lake County. Yeah, I was gonna say Lake County, right? Nice. I think Professor Kyle said it was Pomo as well yesterday in Sebastopol. That's awesome. Okay, so yeah, everyone enter into our group chat just a question or a topic that was sparked from a talk to teachers. While you're doing those, the way this is going to work is Alex, our bridge leader, is going to be the lead on who has the floor, and so we can just start with whoever's ready, and then when you have, if you're prepared to talk or you want to contribute to the discussion, you'll just use the raise your hand feature. And Alex, you're able to see that raised hand, correct? Okay, and so he will keep a running tab of who will be up next to speak. And so when the next person is done speaking, he will call the name of who will be up next. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so I'm going to enter a topic example. Oops. All right. So let's see a few more people add a topic or a question to the side, just so that we have a little more to go off of to start. Then you kind of have an idea of what it is that you'd like to contribute. Don't forget to get a good stretch in. I know we've all been staring at the screen for a really good hour. Probably got lots of good information from our advisor this morning. Good, I'm loving the questions. All right. Okay, is there anyone that would like to volunteer to start off? So what did you think of the text? What spoke out to you most? Maybe a powerful quote, and why it was powerful to you. I know that you took amazing annotations, so we have a great starting point today.
I'll start.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Yeah. So one quote that I found that really stood out to me was on page 1. He says, "A Negro who is born in this country and undergoes the American educational system runs the risk of becoming schizophrenic." So I thought that was a really I guess kind of a bold statement to make, just because it's very impactful. Like you would have never thought of that. So I kind of just thought that was really interesting. And he does have a very strong opinion on what he believes. He really states that he's just going off of facts, and he's just stating all his evidence and from the past with Europe and everything like that. And I don't know, I just found it very like impactful. Like I never thought of things in like that perspective, and it kind of just like opened my eyes to like the other side of what like people think, because like we're all different individuals and we have different views. So I was like very impacted by how he like states all these things, and I don't know, just like opening up a different perspective, and how he talks about like future generations of students who like are able to make a change. I feel like everyone can relate to that, and just I feel like everyone can take a piece of what he said into like to heart, or like to like you can connect to it. So I thought that was really interesting how he was able to do that, but still able to give his opinions and his evidence and everything like that. So yeah.
Absolutely, and such a powerful choice of words to say the risk of becoming schizophrenic, right? Because it's that idea of trying to live in two different worlds and two different just two clashing realities, right? Of one from education versus when he goes home, and what he sees outside of a classroom, and powerful for him to even choose to talk to teachers, right? Good. Alex, did you get any hands up? We can't hear you, Alex. Looks like we're having some. I think I see Aline's hand up. Oh, Christian.
Yeah, I was, oh, Christian, sorry.
Sorry, Aline, that was my fault. All right, Christian, go ahead, take it away.
Hi. I feel like the diction in that little phrase is very powerful, especially the word schizophrenic, because I feel like this was used to kind of imply that the educational system downgrades colored people to a point where they go mad, and also a combination of the amount of holes and lies in the American educational system that will kind of spark too much confusion to the learners.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Aline.
Yeah, I was going to agree with the statement Rebecca said, or you guys were talking about that sentence too, because I think it's very backwards how like it's talking about like this nation and everything it's built on, and how they're supposed to believe that this is liberty
Can
and
you hear me?
and it's like, and you're supposed to appreciate these people that built a country for you, but in reality it's
No, why is it not?
the country and not being treated as humans. And yeah, I think it is a bold sentence using that word, but it also makes a lot of sense, and people are scared to like say that because it's bringing attention to these like harsh truths, but it needs to be heard.
If you can hear me, Kristen shows next.
Oh, okay. So another quote that he said was, "Society ideally wants a citizen who will simply obey the rules of society." I thought that was very strong that he said that, because that is what the society wants, not only now, but then, not only then, but they want that now. So he also said it was very dangerous to basically even think, I guess, against them, or even think at all, because it shows that you have the ability to speak up and cause a problem. So I thought that was really strong when he said that. And yeah.
Absolutely.
And Haley?
Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Are we allowed to choose topics like from that as well?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
And great job referencing specifically who said what. That's a great practice for discussion. And you're welcome to go back a few people if you happen to get in line and we've moved on. You're welcome to revisit and maybe jotting down notes of whose name it is or the point that you wanted to retouch is helpful. Sorry, Haley, take it away.
So Elsie said her topic was the importance of educating youth. So let me pull up my notes. I think that was really important because, like how he said, the purpose of education finally is to create in a person the ability to look at the world for himself, to make his own decisions, to say to himself, this is black or this is white, to decide for himself whether there is a God in heaven or not, to ask questions of the universe and then learn to live with those questions in a way he achieves his own identity. So, like, that's kind of saying, like, I don't know, like it's important to, like, I don't know how I'm trying to word this. Like, if you educate children young about, like, right and wrong, it'll make it, like, a better future for, like, generations to come, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and he uses great examples, right, of that, right, when he talks about the Third Reich. So he talks about Hitler and the power of education. And so when educated, he says, when educated to the purposes of the Third Reich, you know, and a youth became barbarians, right? So he very illicitly states and uses evidence as to when an education was used as a means of destruction, really, right? And the power that education and civilizing us, right? That's the role of an education, and how we cannot exist without a society, and we have to learn how to and their duty to civilize a child. It really stuck out to me as a parent and thinking about my 1.5-year-old and the different things that I teach him and how I'm going to you know, present things to him is what is going to be his norm, right? And so when our histories have these holes, and the educational system focuses on standardized testing or on, you know, regurgitating information, we miss the mark in you know, in conscious thinking. And so I think critical thinking is often talked about in classrooms just over and over, right? To be a critical thinker. And I prefer to call it a conscious thinker, because to be critical almost sounds negative, right? You have to critically analyze it. You have to pick it apart, versus when you consciously address something, you try to look at it from all different perspectives. Yeah, sorry, I cut.
No, that's all I had. That was good.
All right, Alex, who's up?
So it's gonna be Elsie, then Jennifer, then Christian, then Alejandra.
Okay, so going off of Haley, the quote that really stood out for me was that when he said, I would teach him that if he intends to get to be a man, he must at once decide that he is stronger than this conspiracy and that he must never make his peace with it. Because that stood out because he was saying that you shouldn't settle for, like, the life that society has intended for you, because it's not what you deserve, because you're human and you deserve the same rights as everyone else. So that stood out because he said he would educate children, that they are the ones that can change their future, and this will happen by means of fighting their own identity, worth, and utilizing it to fight for their rights.
Okay, so I think I was next. And going back to what Elsie and Haley said, because I really like that quote. I had that quote highlighted. And going along what Elsie said was that she said how, I think it was Elsie or Haley who said that Sorry, because I have a whole bunch of things written down. But so in order to meaningfully get rid of racism, students have to gain more knowledge and fight for it, and that's what they're not being taught. And then he, hold on, sorry, give me a second. Could I find where I was going to read? Because I was going to say the quote. Okay, can I go after?
So, Christian, you can go.
So going back to how the government wants the people to obey the law, I feel like the author tries to expose how the government doesn't really want constructive criticism from the people. And for that reason, I feel like he later references the Bible in paragraph 17, where he says, the Bible says somewhere that where there is no vision, the people will perish. I believe that he's trying to kind of say that if there is no rebellion to kind of reform the American government, then it'll kind of just perish, like how he said.
Absolutely. Well, how can we be a democracy without, I mean, right? The government was created by people, so it can be, and molded by people, so it can be remolded by people, but it takes an educated youth, really, right? Sorry, I'll stop.
Going off of Haley and just how like the norms and the education system, I really liked how like Baldwin really like wanted to say will highlight like a larger structure of how like racism works and like understanding everything we are seeing today in like a historical context and just not making it about the individual. I just really liked how he wants like how do I say it? Like teachers make like younger generations understand that the aspect of history is like made through like connections and links and not make it about the individual. So I really like that.
So I think I'm next. So kind of going off of Haley, Christian, and Alejandra, I wrote down in my notes, I just saw this right now and it kind of just like, it kind of made a connection. It says society does not want people who have questions about the universe and like complex subjects. They want people who will obey the rules of society. And like, I feel like following society is like really important to like, to maintain order, like for them to maintain order over people. And I think there was this video that I watched and like, I don't remember a while ago. I don't know if people have seen it, but it's like they're in like a courtroom. It's like this guy, I think he's like rapping or like singing or something, and he's like explaining how all these things have changed, like cars and everything. And then he gets to education and how we're still sitting in rows and we're still doing this, and like they're still teaching us in the way of like, I guess, being like manual labor and things like that, and like working in factories, and like I guess that's how they're teaching us. And I think that's like really, like you just think about that and you're like, wow, like why hasn't like education changed? And like there can be so many things that can be added or like taken away. Like we're in like the century, it's like so long ago that these rules and these things have happened, and it's like, why can't there be change? And I think this is like what he's like trying to do. He's like, why hasn't there been change? And things are still the way they have been for so many years, and it's like, it's a different time, we need like new things. So yeah.
So Grace is next.
So just to add on to like how he views the education system, I think it's really interesting that from the beginning he's like assuming that everyone is supposed to believe that the education system is there to encourage students instead of fixing like their mindsets. So he is like outraged that it's not there to like stimulate students' minds and really help them like just develop their own ideas and how they view the world, but instead it's like for their own benefit, it's putting it like basically in a box. So
Crescencia is next.
Okay, so Another thing Baldwin said was, a revolution of Black people is not what upsets the country. What upsets them is the questioning of their own identity. I'm not sure if that's the exact quote, but I know it's from the last couple paragraphs. But when he said that, I thought that was really important because it is very, okay, so people don't want to see what is wrong, so they don't have to change it. So people are refusing to see what's really going on, their identity as a state. So they're refusing to see it so they don't have to change it. And I think that also is very prevalent in society today. People choose to not see the movement happening, and it is happening, and change does need to happen. So it was happening then, and it's happening again now. So I thought that was very, very important that he said that.
I think Emily wants to go next. If you want to go.
What was that, Alex? I didn't hear you.
I think that Emily wants to go next.
And then we might want to circle back to Jennifer if she's ready to.
All right, so to piggyback with Grace about educating the youth, so on the second page, fourth paragraph, it says, they don't have the vocabulary to express what they see, and we, their elders, know how to intimidate them very easily and very soon. So I think this sentence or quote could mean like, education is good for instructing kids, but sometimes what we read, what we see, what we hear, what we get experience from really influences on like what we think and how we grow with our own ideas. And yeah.
Can I cut real quick? I love that paragraph, right, where he talks about how children are more apt to investigating things and questioning things, right? We learn to stop questioning, and that is so scary, right? He says that because adults are so anxious to be fooled, and I put, why fooled, right? I mean, to be fooled, or they're just anxious for an easy answer almost. It made me think of, but yes, sorry, I'll go back. Who's next, Alex?
Jennifer is ready to go. She can go.
Yeah. So, like based on what you said, was that from a young age, kids are taught one thing, and then everything else is wrong. So, like a white man is taught that from an early age that they're heroic, but an African American man is taught a false history and that they don't have an identity. So, in order to meaningfully get rid of racism, students have to gain more knowledge and fight for it to create their own identity because they don't have one now because of what they're taught when they're little.
It doesn't seem that nobody has their hand raised. Does somebody want to go next?
Jacqueline, you said you found it interesting when he talks about becoming your own person without the social frames that society places on you. Because in this text, it isn't who you really are. You decide that for yourself. You want to elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, so that was in the beginning, but I also want to transition and like further in the text where it says like where they're calling him, when they're saying things about him that are not true, that he says, I know who I am, and yet you're the one who's wrong, so you're the one who has, you're not educated in knowing, like, I know who I am, so I'm not affected as much as you expect me to be, so I am my own person. And I think what's interesting is that he's basically saying, like, I know my identity, yet you're still lost and not educated enough to find your own identity, is what I think was really interesting, like on the topic of identities, because in the beginning it said like America's still trying to find its identity or still maintaining the same old identity that they had before, which needs to be evolved just as the times have evolved. So you.
I love this. I just realized that I only have 5 more minutes with you. So I hate having to cut this off because I'm loving where it's going. But so I'm going to finish off if there's anything else that we want to add.
We have time for one more.
One more?
I think, yeah, Christian is the only one left with his hand up.
Perfect.
Well, I just wanted to mention, as Jackie was saying, in that same paragraph, Baldwin says in paragraph 11, because if I am not what I've been told I am, then it means that you're not what you thought you were either. And I found that to be powerful because it kind of means that if you lie about others, you are also lying about yourself. And it kind of shows, or it's kind of trying to tell others to kind of have some moral respect to others.
Absolutely. And in the video, when we got to hear him speak, I think you hear his capacity to use language in a way that his candor, I got him uninvited to a lot of places that he would have been asked to speak. There are multiple incidences where he wrote a speech and was prepared and then was asked not to give it because they were fearful of that candor in the political realm at that point, and how much he went against the status quo. But I love what you all pulled out, and I'm going to switch gears a little bit because you're going to. How many people have ever heard of the word rhetoric? Raise your hand. Press the raise your hand button. I heard the word rhetoric. So I got my master's degree in rhetoric. I consider myself a rhetorician. And there's a lot of times when you hear it, it's used in a negative connotation and oftentimes used in addressing politicians mostly, because it's originally means the art of persuasion, a lot of people will call it, but I choose to call it the art of communication in all of its glory, right? And we'll be talking about 3 aspects of it. You're going to have a worksheet to read over, and they're called ethos, pathos, and logos. And it's so rather than it takes the reading one step further, right? So rather than just the words on the paper and how they or what they're saying about education and identity, it also examines how that language is effective. And I find his writing particularly just interesting to digest, because I believe it was Erica in your notes that said that that it was upsetting to read this, but it was also but you enjoyed it, right? So it's this awkward feeling of something that a conversation you need to have, and that but is just so brutally honest and makes you uncomfortable, and the way that he's able to do that, he almost passively does it in the beginning, right? He uses, so now if I've sketched, in the final paragraph on the first page, he says, now if what I've tried to sketch has any validity, right? So rather than saying I am right and this is how you should view it, right? He adds that passive voice that that allows you to want to listen, right? And to want to continue to read and not take it, because when something is different than the norm that you have been taught your entire lives, right, to be told that, that white privilege is real, right? That makes people so uncomfortable because it demoralizes, or it does not validate all the work that someone has put into their lives, right? But to have to digest that, Baldwin has a very skillful way to put that out there, and I just really appreciate it. But now I'm rambling and I only have a few minutes. So I just want to, I'm so excited that you will all be my students next semester because the work you've done so far is impressive, especially with everything else that you're doing. So I commend you on that. And I like to use literature as a means to examine the world and confront problems that you share in your lives outside of the classroom. And so if you wonder why we're talking about certain things and not just, dissecting sentence structure, I think that that meaningful words come with passionate conversations. And so that is why we bring up conversations that need to be addressed. And so, this one talking about a learned identity, which at first made me almost uncomfortable because he says, is the way to achieve your own identity. And I had to kind of wrap my head around that because you like to think you are your own person because of you and solely your interests, but we are, our culture is a learned behavior. And so, to learn that makes you a more conscious thinker and makes you allowed to achieve your identity. There is no better way to put it. And we are not going to be a citizen that will simply obey the rules. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. We will get to come back to this during the semester because it's just such a great read and it's so powerful and we need to spend way more time with it. I could talk to you all day, but I can't, unfortunately. Eileen said, I think enjoying the reading, something like this is very upsetting, is more of the type of interest we need from people who want to see change. Absolutely. Thank you, Eileen. Yeah, I think that this is, I think stories are the way that we change the world, and sharing them with one another is so important. It's how we've gotten to where we are now. Okay, so I'm going to show you your essay prompt. And also, so your homework tonight is to read another text called On Indian Ground. Let me share my screen. So, can you see my screen? Yeah, okay, so we are down to day 4. And I'm gonna take us to or wait, we're in day 3, aren't we? Sorry. Day 3. Okay, so your homework is going to be to watch a video and then do the same thing as annotating your notes as you read Protecting the Treasure, A History of Indigenous Education in California from the text. So I'm going to show you how to access this because it's only on the library website. So I'm going to copy this, right? And then I'm going to head on over to my main online and go to my library account and be asked to log in 100 times. And so this is what's happening, but now we want to search the library, okay? So we'll go to library search, and I'm going to paste that right in there, and I'm going to search. And there it is, On Indian Ground. So full text available. I'm going to go to EBSCO. See you. And then I'm going to click on the full PDF text. So the SSU library and CSU libraries, for that matter, are all connected. You have access to anything any CSU library has access to, you have access to on this portal. So if you're ever asked to read directly from it, this is how you access it. And you go to full text. And here it is, On Indian Ground, and you're being asked to read the first chapter. So I'm just going to click on to chapter 1, and there is what we're reading. Does that make sense? So I want you to read this first chapter, not the whole book, obviously, just this chapter 1, Protecting the Treasure, and that is how you access it. And then next class, when instead of meeting on live Zoom, we are going to meet, or we are going to have a discussion via Canvas. And so I'm asking you to share a question or a comment on the text. Well, let me show you first where it is. Here's so we'll click on the discussion board. And so after you've watched the video and read the text, so this is reviewing ethos, pathos, and logos, which I will address next time we talk. There, you're going to share a question or a comment on the text, and they should elicit real responses, not just yes or no, right? Which you did a great job on that. I don't even need to go over it. I'm so impressed already. And so I want you to post a question or a comment, and then you're going to read through other people's, select one, and write a response. So it should be a thoughtful paragraph responding to what they have to say. And then I want you to do that 2 times, for at least 2 times. You're welcome to do it as much as you'd like. But so we're essentially doing what we did today, but online. Does that make sense? Let me try to open you. See your faces a little better. Any questions on that?
I have a question.
Yes, Rebecca.
So it's just one, like, our opinion, like our response to what we read, and then we respond to 2 other people?
Correct.
Okay.
And I'm going to make a point to say, so this isn't a summary, right? Because we've all already read it. So that's hard to, sometimes it's hard to get used to just jump right in having the conversation, but it's just like we did today, where we're assuming everyone knows the text, right? Everyone's already read it. Now we get to talk about the content of it and ask questions and have a discussion rather than an overview.
Okay. And sorry, I have another question, because you said it's 1 chapter we're reading tonight, but it says protecting the treasure on the assignment, but it also says history of Indian education in California. So I was wondering if it's those 2 chapters or if it's just 1.
Is it 2? Oh, it is both chapters. It's both chapters. It's both chapters. Sorry. Protecting the underground, right? Oh no, it's the first. That's just the brief. So just the chapter 1, protecting the treasure, and which is a history of Indigenous education.
Oh,
So let's do just chapter 1.
Okay.
You have plenty to do, so we'll just keep it there. Keep it short and sweet. That sound good? Okay. If you have any questions, shoot them into the chat for me, or just raise your hand. I'd be happy to answer them. And I'm just going to show you the essay prompt before I let you go. Professor Kyle, I'm sorry, I'm going into your time a little bit. Let's see. Okay, so your essay prompt is in day 4, and I'm addressing it because we're not going to meet live tomorrow. I will be available for office hours though, so if you have questions, or if you want to touch base, if you want to talk about the essay prompt, you are welcome to come to my office hours. But so I'm going to just read this to you. So in your essay, you will draw upon free writes, notes, and discussions to write a thesis-driven essay making a comparative analysis of A Talk to Teachers by James Walden and Protecting the Treasure, A History of Indigenous Education in California by Krishan Laura Cooper, and presenting your own perspective on education. So you're being asked to write a 3-page essay that should be well organized and clearly written using evidence from the text and your life. So there's a couple worksheets that I've created. They're called PI, and which is talking about structuring a good organized paragraph of having a point and an explanation, and then a thesis guide, which again this is a lot of information to try to throw at you. We will spend all semester refining these skills, so don't be overwhelmed by that. And then there's also this really awesome video from the Writing Center from Dr. Emily Hostetler, because you can get credit if you, depending on how you feel about your writing, or even just to be able, writing is collaborative. And so English 99, you'll be able to sign up for. I'm sure you'll hear more about it, but you get 1 unit of credit for having a writing tutor, aside from me. That would help with any of your writing assignments. Doesn't even have to just be English. So And so your first draft of this essay will be due on Friday. And then over the weekend, I will be giving you feedback. But I also welcome you to ask your summer bridge leaders to like, chat about them, or your classmates as well, and kind of get an idea. But I just want to also make a point to say it's about the text, right? A comparative analysis of a talk to teachers and on Indian ground. But your evidence can also lie in your own experiences, right? So you can use I. It's not a 5-paragraph essay. It's as many paragraphs as you need it to be. So don't feel, it's stuck to some rigid outline like that. And in a paragraph, an example can be your own experiences. I definitely want to reiterate that. It's not just from the text. So you can speak up from personal experience and from any other outside, sources that you may think of, like when Rebecca brought up a video today, I welcome and encourage that as well. So don't feel just stuck to the 2 texts. Does that sound good? Yeah, let me check the chat. Is there any other questions? I don't know where my chat is. I am going to stop sharing my screen so I can find my chat. Okay, there we go. Okay, Kyle may have been answering for me. Okay, yeah. So you just press reply on that board. I don't know if you saw it. Does that make sense? I'm going to pull it back up. Are we good to go? Tired of hearing me talk?
I'm going to show them an example from my class from last semester too. So they'll see like they'll see a full discussion already there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I will stop rambling then. Thank you all for your amazing annotations. I love them. And I look forward to discussing for our online Canvas discussion. All right. Have fun with Professor Kyle. Thank you. I'll pass the torch. See, I guess I won't see you until next week, unless you come see me in office hours. So, and feel free to email me questions. If you have any questions on anything you're doing, I am available to you. Okay.
Sorry, I have a quick question before you
Yeah.
go. So I submitted my my notes for last night, but I didn't know we were supposed to submit the annotations with it, and I don't know how to like submit my annotations.
Your notes were fine.
Okay, so we don't have
Yeah.
to submit the annotations?
No, it's okay. You've submitted, as long as you submitted notes. I mean, sometimes that may be all your annotations. So.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
And you had great notes, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Cohort 1. See ya. I need to pass the torch to you, right, Kyle?
Yep.
I'm not sure I know how.
So if you go to participants, and then you go to my name and go to more. There.
Got it.
Yep.
Sweet.
Cool. All right, I do want to give you guys just a quick small break. So just like 3 minutes. So if you need to get up, get some water or something like that. But 11:05, we'll get started. But I do want to kind of break it up a little bit. So if you want to hang tight, that's fine too. I'm here if you have any like specific questions. But 11:05, we'll get started. Then Eileen, I know you just popped back in, but we're going to take a small break till 11:05, so just a couple minutes. Tony, I know you just came back in, and we're just doing a small break for just like a minute or so. 11:05 is when we're going to start, which I guess is about now. So we'll get started in just a second as everybody comes back in. All right, welcome back. So I had you guys watch some videos last night, and I just want to get some feedback from you guys, because this is the major change between being in a in-classroom environment where you're like showing up to class 2 to 4 p.m. every day, sitting in class, participating in class, and then moving to this remote structure where a lot of the lecture and a lot of the content is coming through as video that you have to watch on your own time. And like, luckily I was around earlier during the advising session where you guys were talking about, you know, this fear of procrastination and about like trying to like make it work when you're have distractions of home and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just hoping you guys can share out a little bit with me, either unmute yourself or you can add it into the chat, just about, you know, what that experience of watching those videos was like. I know that for me, so I didn't generate those videos, right? My colleagues in the math department generated those videos. When I watched those videos to make sure that I was, you know, on board with the content, that everything was there that needed to be there, that I was even struggling. Like after about like 5 minutes, I'm like itching in my seat. Like I want to like hit fast forward, or I want to like just skip to the next one, right? Like, so I'm just wanting to hear from you what that experience was like, because that might have been like your first time of really receiving like video content like that. Maybe you were doing this last year in high school as well, but if you could share out a little bit with me what your experience was watching those videos, that would be great. And like I said, you can either type it in the chat or you can unmute yourself and talk too.
I am kind of used to the videos style, because like for me, I had an econ class that would just do full on just videos, like on Khan Academy and any videos. So I'm kind of used to doing it. So what I would do is watch the whole videos to try to concentrate and know what are the key parts, and then I would take my notes. So
that's a good strategy.
Yeah. Also, I would draw because I'm more of a visual learner, so it's really helpful. When I saw the drawings and like I think the third video on how they're drawn out.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. Anybody else want to share out?
I'll go. For me, it was a little difficult to sit through like the second one, because it was longer. Like the ones that were 6 and 7 minutes, those were easier for me because I was like, oh, it's just like 2 more minutes after. But the ones that are longer, it was harder, but I still got through them fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and I hear, and this is a strategy. I wasn't able to figure out how to do it with these particular videos, but like speeding up the videos because some were talking kind of slow. And then really, I also struggled with that second video. But there's one thing that I really liked about the second video was that the instructor was kind of trying to add some personality to it, right? So like they were trying to connect with you as a student going through this process of learning this stuff. And the other 2 videos, they're pretty cut and dry. It's like, here's the math topics, here's how it's done, here's the definitions, just communicating direct information. And I think a lot of like, even like this type of back and forth that we're having right now gets lost when it is just like an instructor sits down and they do their video and then they post their video and there's not a lot of engagement there. So like the biggest thing that I can try to like push on you right now is that when you're engaging with this video content, like still be trying to get that good community engagement that's happening with you and other students, with you and your instructor. It's going to make the experience a lot less painful than just sitting and watching these videos and then trying to do work. That seems so isolationist, and it's not really what we want. what I wanted to do, and actually I'll leave it as anybody else that wants to share anything that they experienced with that before I move forward. Okay. So here's what I wanted to do just really quick, and this is along the lines of this, is I just wanted to show you a quick example of what my class will look like last semester, right? And this is about like 2 weeks after quarantine, so like it's still a little rough on the edges, but this is basically the structure of my course. And so you can kind of see a slight modification to like the video content that you guys were doing last night and the way that I had structured it in my classes. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And then pull up last semester. So this is my class, and this is like some of you may end up being in a like a 1-year version of introductory statistics, and some of you might be in a 1-semester version. So this is the 2nd semester of the 1-year version of statistics. And so right around week 10, each week was broken down into a module. So each week you would get this content posted at Monday at noon, and then everything was due Sunday at midnight. And again, this is just the way I did it. All your instructors are going to go differently in the way that they introduce this. And so then each one would have an introduction page where here in order is all the things that the students would do each week. And so I noticed that some students were having a problem with one of the homework problems. So I just did a review of one of those homework problems. And it's just a quick video that's demonstrating that problem. And so I just want to kind of show you so you can see what my style is. This is also giving you a little bit of an introduction to the online stats tool that we're going to be using in the next week or so. And so let me just go ahead and pull this up. You won't hear the audio, which is okay. It's just me kind of going through the process of, okay, we went to the online homework system. I pulled up the homework problem from the online homework system, and then I'm just discussing what some of the complications that the students ran into, helping them with the process of solving the problem. Here we were doing hypothesis testing, so they had to like come up with the equations that made up the 2 different hypotheses in this problem. And so I'm going to skip around a little bit here, skipping forward. And so I do this I do most of my lecturing on pencil and paper. And I think one of you mentioned about like being a visual learner, you want to draw some of the stuff out. So the PowerPoint slides, not really my style, because I think so much of mathematics is done with just pen and paper. And we're going to be doing a lot of that today too. So yeah, so I'm just talking through the problem a little bit. And then I start just kind of going through the process of developing the problem and going through the homework problem. And so here's just kind of a review of that, okay? Here we're showing a little bit of the online tool where we get the data into this web browser online tool, and then you can display the data with different types of visualizations. Here at the dot plot, and then you can perform some analysis, and that's basically what's happening here. And so I'm just walking you through the process of how you do the analysis and how you go through the process of using the online tool. So just wanted to give you a quick example of what that is. Now, after that, the way that my actual content for the week would look like would be these lectures and exercises. This is kind of trying to recreate what happens in the classroom. So for the statistics courses, we have developed a workbook, and so every student would buy a copy of this workbook. It's pretty cheap, it's like $10 or something like that, which is cheap compared to the textbook cost. And then you would be taking notes in the workbook, so it's kind of nice because it gives you a general outline of that. And so here we're covering section 5.2 in the workbook, and so this is me going through about 18 minutes of lecture. It's a little long, I know, but you're at this point in the semester, there's a lot to talk about, right? This is like the end of a 1-year-long course in statistics. There's a lot of information that's going on, and I'm just going through the process, just like I did with the homework of filling in the notes, using the online tool, and giving some definitions, and very much like what you saw in the lecture last night, but just in this pen and paper format where we're going through and solving some examples, right? And so what do I do after about 18 minutes of some definitions and some examples? Then I would break you away and I would have you try one of these problems. And then you would try it on your own, and then I would have the solution to that problem. And then we would go into some more lecture, have you try one, I give you the solution to that, you try it, and then some more lecture. So that's the general structure of what my courses were looking like, similar to what you were doing last night. The only difference is what you did last night was just watch these videos and you weren't doing anything yet. And it's not till now, 12 plus hours later, that we're actually doing something with this. So what I want to do now is just jump into what it is we're doing today. So I'm on the cohort page and I'm going to jump to our day 3. And I'm going to come down to today's content. So you can go ahead and do that with yours on Canvas. And so you last night were working on learning about 5-number summary, how to identify outliers, and how to generate box plots. And so we're going to do that, but we want to do it now with the M&M data. So if you haven't already, now is a great time to open up those M&Ms, and you can go ahead and start sorting those M&Ms by color. What we have in the cohort page, so when you navigate to this page in Canvas, this link right here will bring you to our class's spreadsheet that you should all have access to. And then you can start putting in the count data for each of the different colors of M&Ms that were in your bag. So let's say, you get 13 red M&Ms, you put 13 in here, and so on. Please add your student name as well. That's not going to be used at any point other than just like kind of record keeping to make sure that everybody got their data in there. And that also will like define, oh, that line is mine. So that way you're not trying to add things to different lines. So that's going to be for you to go ahead and add. So I'll just give you some time to go ahead and do that. I'll leave this open now and we'll kind of watch you through that. If you have questions, feel free to throw those in the chat and I can answer those while all of you are kind of sorting your bags of M&Ms and inputting your data into our spreadsheet. So I'm going to do a quick run through on how we get to this spreadsheet page for some people. So I'm going to go back to Canvas. So we're in our cohort page for Canvas. And then I'm going to go down to our day 3 and click on day 3. And then I'm going to scroll down to our kind of quantitative reasoning. And then right underneath the Zoom link is the page that is for today's work. And then under Do It, there's a link right here for the class's M&M data. So that's where you can find that. So I'll tell a funny story about these M&Ms from last semester. I went out and bought a whole box of these M&Ms for my students so that they could go ahead and do this exercise. And then we went down on lockdown, and suddenly now I've got this case of M&Ms and no students to give them to. And so I became a M&M addict over the last 6 months or so, and ended up going to Costco 3 more times and buying more cases of M&Ms. And I basically am eating like a bag of M&Ms a day. So. But I'm a peanut M&M's guy. I'm not a chocolate M&M's guy. All right. Were you all able to get our data in there? Okay. Looking like we're all in there. So here's where what we did last night comes into play. So we're interested, let's say, in red M&Ms, okay? And we're interested in trying to analyze the red M&Ms to find out, like, let's say I was to open a random bag of M&Ms, how many red M&Ms should I expect to see, right? How spread out is the amount of variation? Like, look, we've got, some people had only 4 red in their bag, some people had 11, right? We're interested in trying to measure that spread. We're interested in measuring the center, meaning like what's the average number of M&Ms we would expect, and then how much variation is there. We're interested in measuring these types of things. So a lot of what you were learning in the videos last night was addressing that. So maybe you can let me know, like, just unmute yourself, like, what am I going to need to be doing if I want to start analyzing the red M&Ms and, you know, determining maybe is 4 like a extreme number that we shouldn't expect to see? How would I know if 4 isn't, say, an outlier, right? Like, so maybe if you can share out, if I'm trying to get to the process of being able to produce a box plot of the red M&Ms, like, what am I going to need to do?
Organize your data.
Organize the data, okay. And so what can we do to organize the data? Like, how do you think we could do that?
Like from smallest to largest number.
Okay, cool, yeah. And I'm seeing in the chat, find a 5-number summary, right? But in order to do a 5-number summary, we got to start by sorting the data, okay? Now, there's some cool spreadsheet tools to be able to sort the data. And I'm going to go ahead and show you that, but also like a lot of the times you're going to be doing this stuff by hand too. So I'll kind of go through it by hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and highlight all of the data here. And then under the data tab, I can do sort sheet, like from like A to Z, that kind of a thing. So I'm going to sort, I'm going to see if that's, I'm used to using Excel instead of these Google Sheets. Let me see if I could sort from A to Z. I don't know if that's going to do it there. That's fine. Changing the order for everyone. Okay, I didn't want to do that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and sort. And this time I think I sort range. And I want to do column B, and it has a header row, but it might even run into a problem with this because, oh, there we go. Nope, it did it. It just made things a little strange because it threw the red down on the bottom because R, I guess, comes after 11 or something in the numerical structure. But now I've got everything sorted now for red from smallest to largest, right? But you could have done this by hand as well. So I have all the data from smallest to largest, and then someone said we need to come up with a 5-number summary. Okay, so just remind me really quick, what are the 5 numbers in the 5-number summary?
Minimum, Q1, median, Q3, and maximum.
Okay, so I've got the minimum, I've got the Q1, the median, the Q3, and the maximum. Now, which of these 5 is the easiest to find?
The minimum.
Minimum, yeah. It's just the smallest value in the data set, right? So I look at, it's sorted from smallest to largest. And so 4 is my minimum. And then just as equally as easy, the largest, the maximum is 11. And it's okay that there's 2 values here at 11. It's just whatever the value of the largest data value is, okay? All right, now what's the next easiest one to do?
Maximum.
Well, I got the minimum and maximum already, but now what's the next one? The median. Okay, great. What is the median?
The number in the middle.
Yeah, it's the middle number, but remember, it's the middle number when the data is sorted from smallest to largest. You have to sort the data first before you actually find the middle number, okay? So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay. Is there a middle data value here? There isn't, right? The middle is separated by the 7th and 8th data values. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, this data value here and this data value here, the middle of these 2 data values, in fact, the average of these 2 data values is going to be the median. Now, we lucked out because they're both the same data value. But like, imagine if this was 7 and this was 8, right? We would actually have to do a calculation to find out what the actual median is. That calculation for that median is, okay, I'm going to take that 7 and I'm going to add that 7. That would give me 14. So I'm going to put that in parentheses because that's the sum of those 2. And then I would divide it by 2, right? I'm just taking the average, the arithmetic mean of those 2 data values, the 7th and 8th data value. Okay, but 14 divided by 2 is just 7. So our median is 7 in this case. But just, you know, if you didn't have the same data value there, you'd actually have to calculate what it is. Okay, now what about Q1? How do I find Q1? Anyone remember from the video?
Don't you take from the 7 to the smallest numbers and you add them. And then, wait, I can't remember after. Do you add
Okay.
them?
So you are right that has to do with doing something with the first 7 numbers, right? The first 50% of the data, I'm going to use that to find the Q1. But what do I have to do with that data to find the Q1?
You have to find the median between the smallest number and the actual median of the entire data.
Right, right. So in this case, I'm going to kind of show something by putting in a row right here, okay? So I just separated the data by the lower 50% and the upper 50%, right? And our median is actually in the middle here, this 7 here. That's the average of this number and this number, okay? So what I'm doing in this case is I'm taking this data, the data values 1 through 7 when sorted from smallest to largest, and I'm finding the median of these. So the process for finding the median, I'm repeating that, but I'm doing it for the lower 50% of the data, okay? So in this lower 50% of the data, how do I find the median here? Any ideas?
Isn't it just 5 plus 6 divided by 2? Or is it, yeah.
Hold
Isn't
on.
it just that?
How many data values do we have?
We have 2.
No, in total, in our lower.
Oh, we have 7.
We have 7. Okay.
Yeah.
So what's different about the process here is that we have an odd number of data values that we're trying to look at in order to find the median. So is there an actual middle value in this case?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The 1, 2, 3, the 4th data value, this 6 right here is the middle data value of the lower 50%. So our Q1 is this 6. So our Q1 is 6. Okay. So this process of finding the median can be a little different depending on if we have an even number of data values or an odd number of data values, right? And that same thing will happen if we're dealing with Q1 and Q3. If we have an even or odd number of data values, the process is a little bit different, right? Okay, so I just want to make sure we saw that. What about for Q3? How do I find Q3?
The same thing.
Same thing, right? We have 7 data values that we're looking at. We're looking at the middle of these 7 data values. And so right there, that's the 4th data value in this collection of 7. So our Q3 is going to be 10. Okay. All right. So there's our 5-number summary. Okay. The other thing what we talked about last night was, well, are any of these numbers unusual? So is it unusual to get a number like 11? Or is it unusual to get a number like 4? What do I have to do to determine whether or not any of these numbers are outliers?
Find the interquartile range.
The interquartile range. So the interquartile range, sometimes we abbreviate it as IQR for interquartile range. And what is the interquartile range? There was an equation for it. What was it?
Q3 minus Q1.
Q3 minus Q1. So I'm going to subtract Q3. I'm going to subtract Q1 from Q3. And that's going to be, okay, well, Q3 is 10. And I'm going to subtract 6. So I'm going to have, okay, that's equals to 10 minus 6. So it's equal to 4. The IQR, the interquartile range, the difference between Q3 and Q1 is 4. Okay, so how do I use the IQR to help me determine whether or not something's an outlier or not? What do I have to do with that IQR?
Don't you have to create the fences?
Yeah, I got to create the fences. And what's the process to creating those fences?
Multiply it by 1.5.
Multiply the IQR by 1.5. So 1.5 times the IQR. Okay, well, I'm just taking that 4 and multiplying it by 1.5. So this is going to be equal to 1.5 multiplied by the IQR of 4. And so I end up with 6 is 1.5 times the IQR. Okay. So now what do I do with that 1.5 times the IQR? How do I build a fence from that?
Add it to Q3.
Add it to Q3. Okay. That's going to give me my upper fence. So Q3 plus 1.5 times the IQR. That's going to give me my upper fence. So in this case, my Q3 is 10. I'm going to add that 6, the 1.5 times the IQR 10. So I'm going to have equals 10 plus the 6. And so I get 16. Okay. How do I find my lower fence?
Q1 minus the IQ.
Yep. I take Q1, I subtract 1.5 times the IQR. So I'm going to have Q1 in this case is that 6. So I take 6. And from 6, I'm going to subtract 1.5 times the IQR. I'm going to subtract 6, and I get 0. So my lower fence is at 0. Okay. Do I have any outliers?
No.
No. In order to have an outlier, I would have to have a data value that was greater than 16, or I'd have to have a data value that was less than 0. And so because I don't have any outliers, I don't have to modify my box plot when I make it in any way. I can go ahead and generate the box plot now. Okay, any questions about the process that we just went through? It's basically just kind of following along with what we did in the video last night. Okay. Feel free to unmute yourself if you had a question about the process. Okay. All right, so then the next thing I want to do is generate that box plot. Now let me jump back over to the Canvas page. And I'm showing you this for a couple different reasons. I could use, there's a whiteboard tool that's inside Canvas. So inside Zoom. So I guess I'll start by showing you that. Let me go ahead and stop sharing here. And then I'll do a new share. But what I want to show you with this new share is I'm going to use the whiteboard tool. Oh, it looks like it might have been disabled from this. Yeah, it's okay. I wasn't going to use it, the Canvas tool or the Zoom tool version of it anyway. But often some of your instructors might use a whiteboard tool, like a digital whiteboard tool inside your Zoom meeting. And I'll show you something similar, but I'm going to use a web tool to do it. So let me go ahead and share my screen again. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the Canvas page, and I have a link to a tool that you can use. And this might be something that you want to use when we do our breakouts as well. I got to figure out how to get rid of this. There we go. Okay. So on today's page, there is down at the bottom of this, there's a link to this online whiteboard tool. And so I'm going to go ahead and click on Start Drawing. And this is just a whiteboard tool, like, you know, that you can all see, so we can be all working together in the same space. But what I could also do is, let's say I was working in a group, which you guys might be doing together in a bit here, is I could invite people, and then by sending out this link, then you could go to that link, and then we could all be drawing on the same page, just the way that you were all just working on that same Google Sheet together, right? So it kind of makes a collaborative whiteboard that everybody could be working on at the same time, okay? And so that you can all see what it is that I'm doing, and that way you're not having to do this through Zoom. Now, I'm not going to require you to do that today. There's some other ways that you can go about the process, but that's just another tool that's there for you. Okay, so we need to just develop a box plot. And I think what doesn't get emphasized enough, and a lot of students kind of will jump to, is they'll just start going through the process of building the box plot, and they'll forget to do like a nice consistent scaling. So I'm going to start off by just trying a little line on the bottom, and your box plots can be, that is not a line. How do I undo? There's my undo. Okay, so are they going to let me get a line? Or are they, there we go, fixed line width, there's a rectangle. And I'm going to go ahead and draw a line like so. Okay, all this here is, for me, is a nice number line. So I have a good consistent scale. So I'm going to go ahead and start my kind of scale here at, say, 0. And then what's the largest data value that I have in my data set? What was the largest number of red M&Ms that we had?
11.
It was 11, right? Okay, so I need to go out to at least 11. Do I have 11 here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. I even have enough that I can do all of the data values and have each one of these tick marks in my grid be worth 2 each, or be worth like two grid marks equals 1. So I'm going to go all the way out here. Here's my 11. And I encourage you to kind of, this is the process I do for doing a nice consistent scaling, as I say, okay, what's the largest data value I need? What's the smallest data value I need? And then make sure that you're going from your smallest to your largest. And you can go further a little bit, but that way you can then get consistent scaling. So now each one of these 2 tick marks, so there's my 1, there's my 2, there's my 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And then I can go ahead and just put some of these scalings in. You don't have to put all of them, but 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5. I'll go ahead and put my 5 in here. And maybe I'll put this 3, and I'll put maybe this 8 here. So you just get a sense, okay, each one of these tick marks is consistent in terms of the spacing. I think I messed that up. I did. Let me back up. I did 3 when I meant to do 2 here. All right. 6, 7, 8, but that can still be my 8. Okay. So doing this consistent scaling makes it so that when you actually do produce the box plot, everything's going to line up and you're not going to be getting some sort of a distorted image where one of these lengths is 1 and another one of these lengths is 2. It's got to be consistent across the entire number line in terms of your spacing. Okay, so I've got that. I want to generate my box plot. Now, if I want to generate the box plot, the first thing I want to do is the box. And what defines that box in the box plot?
Q1 and Q3 and the median.
Cool. So starting with the outside box part, the Q1 and the Q3. So what are my Q1 and what is my Q3?
6
From our
and 10.
6 and 10? Okay, so I'm going to go here to 6, and I'm going to start my box plot right there at 6. And then it's going to go out to 10. And so here I am out at 10. And that represents my box, right? And again, just to remind you, this is because Q1 was 6. And out here, Q3 was 10. Okay, I'm just providing some labels to what defines that box. And then you mentioned the median, and the median is the kind of vertical line that's inside the box. It's kind of telling us where the median is located. And what was the value of our median?
7.
7. So I just go ahead and draw a line right here at 7. And that line is representing my median, which is at 7. Okay. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and draw the whiskers or the tails of our box. And let's say the lower tail, where does it go to?
a minimum?
It goes to the minimum, right? The only time where this changes is if you have outliers, right? And we didn't have any outliers in this case. So I can go ahead and bring this to my minimum. What was my minimum value?
4.
4. So I can go ahead and draw a little line out to 4. And just to kind of remind you in terms of my labeling, my minimum was equal to 4. That's why that's going there. Okay. And then what about the upper tail?
11.
Gonna go to 11. Okay. So I'll go ahead and draw. Oh, I don't like that. Let's go ahead and draw that again. Okay. And so then I have my upper tail, and it's going to go out to 11. Okay. Do a quick little label to indicate why that tail is going there. It's going there because my maximum is equal to 11. All right. Well, this looks pretty good in terms of the actual structure of the box plot, but I should probably give some sort of a label about what this is I'm talking about. And so this is my, so let me go ahead and put a little title here. This is the distribution of red M&Ms for cohort 1, right? So I'm giving a little title, so now you know what it is that you're looking at. This is the distribution of the number of red M&Ms that we had in our cohort, and this is a nice little box plot for us. Okay, so I want you to be able to do this as well, and you can do this by hand. And I'm going to actually get you into groups so that you can do this together. And that way, if you have any questions along the way, you can like help each other out. And then I'll bounce around just like I did yesterday into the breakout rooms to do that. So any questions before I send you out into breakout rooms and what it is I'm going to have you do? I'm going to assign each one of these groups a color, and then once you are assigned the color, then you'll go through the same process that we did. I'm going to go ahead and fix this really quick. I'm going to go ahead and delete that information out and delete that out. Get rid of that line. And then resort the data. This time I'll just sort the data by column. Let's see, sort range, column A from Z to A, sort that way. Okay, so the data is back to normal. So you have access to the spreadsheet, and you're going to get assigned a group. Your group will be assigned that color, and then you'll go through the process that we just went through to create a box plot for that color. Any questions before I send you?
Are we doing the fences as well?
So I don't necessarily visually show the fences, but let me jump back over here and have a quick conversation about if we had some outliers, okay? Let's say that in that data set, we had one other data value, and maybe in our red column, there was one that was at 2. So one person had, all right, we said, never mind, that our fences went to 0. So let's say actually somebody had, and what was the upper fence? I'm trying to think back. Our upper fence was like at 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's say we had something that was at 20, okay? So let's say there was one data value that was at 20, and we want to figure out how to get that to be a outlier, right? Well, all I would need to do is go out here to say at 20. Again, the perspective is a little bit off, but go out to 20 and then just put some sort of a indicator that this data value right here, it could be a little star, it could be a little dot, something that indicates that this data value of 20 is an outlier, right? But I don't necessarily use the fences in my graphic to indicate the outliers. I just look to see that where the data values are beyond that fence to identify the outlier. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, let me stop sharing, and I'll go ahead and set up the breakout rooms. All right, some of you will have groups of 2, some of you will have groups of 3. Let me see that looks good. All right.
How do they know which group, what color they are?
I'm generating a message right now that's going to tell it. Yeah.
You're on mute.
Wait, how did we get to this meeting?
Oh my God, Alex, you cut your hair.
Dude, he shaved his head.
Dude, let me see. Oh wait, I can see. You honestly look so like mature, like a whole new like look. Like I almost didn't recognize you.
You dyed your hair.
Yeah, red.
Red.
Out of all the colors, red. But like I kind of hate it because the color comes out every time I take a shower. Like every time I wet it. And it's
That's
like,
crazy.
my hair, like everything is stained red right now.
Period.
So like, are you guys like waiting for like them to come on?
What's it called? No, they're in their math session. We're in the
It like echoes.
Should I pause the recording?
But thank you for coming on. So what we're gonna do today is like talk about our summer bridge experience, like why we wanted to be a part of the.
Wait, I can't really hear you. Like it's like echoing and then it's like I feel like somebody should mute. Yeah. Okay. So what happened? Wait, I can't hear you, Alex.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we were gonna do was just talk about our summer bridge experience and why we chose to be an EOP.
Okay.
And so
That's it? Like that's the only question?
yeah, like if you want to talk about anything else about your time in EOP, you can do that.
Okay.
Eric, are you in a breakout room?
She just joined right now. I don't know if we can assign her.
No, I will tell Kyle. BRB, y'all.
My stomach is so bad.
What?
All right, so everybody's coming back in from the breakout rooms. One thing you might have noticed is my virtual background. I heard that today's theme was early 2000s. So I've got Napster as my background. I was going to use MySpace, but my MySpace profile is not really classroom appropriate. So, okay, I want to show you one last thing, which is how you upload this to Canvas. So once you finish your box plot, you've got it all nice labeled and everything, how you're going to submit this thing. And so it's basically what your homework is tonight. You also have, I hope all of you had the chance to do the survey. That survey got uploaded at 2. So a couple things I'll just mention about that with Canvas. So yesterday, after the survey got published, I sent out an announcement, and hopefully you all got that announcement as an email. So the way that Canvas has the announcement set up, it has it set up either you can see classroom announcements happening in Canvas, but you all should have gotten a copy of this as an email sent to you yesterday. It looks like around 2:30 or so. But at the same time, I also updated the homework from last night so that it had that that link. So if you haven't already, make sure that you do in the next maybe hour or two, because we want to start collecting that data from everybody in all the cohorts. But again, in that homework, you've got the link to the Google survey, so you can put that data in. So there was that. Now for tonight's homework, let me go back, go to day 3, go for the homework for tonight. You just went through the process and pretty much did everything for the homework. You might need to finish up the last part of getting your box plot, but you should have everything on your way. So there's a couple different ways you can go about doing this. If you did it digitally, then that's fine. You can get that digital object into a Word document or a PDF document. You can use Google, what is it called? Like the Google Docs to be able to do this as well. So maybe I'll show you how to do that with Google Docs. Let's say and I take a picture with my phone of the actual box plot that I produced, right? Now, if you have an Apple iPhone 11, the new file formatting on the new iPhones is a little bit shaky. So you might want to play around a little bit about making sure you can get that picture file into a Word document. But the basic idea is you would take that, and if I go to, let's see if I can go to from here. And I'm going to go with a new Google document. So even from the M&M's page, I can create a new Google document. And then all I'm going to do is insert an image. And then you can go and then upload from your computer. I'm imagining you have a similar option if you're actually using like a phone device to do it. So you don't have to like email yourself the photo. You'll get used to this over the next semester, the process of getting photos into it. So I go ahead and I take an image, I upload it into a Google Doc, just like so. Make sure your name is somewhere on here so I know it's yours. And then I would save this, and I want to save it as a file that's on my computer, okay? Because I need to upload this file to Canvas. So file, I'm going to make a copy of this, and I'm going to call this my box plot for orange M&Ms, let's say, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and, oh, maybe I don't want to make a copy of this. Maybe I needed to download it. That's fine. I'll go ahead, file, download, and your options are either this docx or your PDF format. Those are the only two formats that I'm letting you use to upload this. So you've got to get your picture into, say, a Google Doc or a Microsoft Word doc, and then save it in either a docx or a PDF format, and then going to the homework, and I'm going to turn the student view on so that you can see this. Sorry, I've got to go back so I can do this. Sorry to keep you guys a little bit over, but you'll be well on your way. So I go to the day 3, I go down to the homework. And you see in the upper right-hand corner, there's this submit assignment button. I click on that, and then the button goes away, but you have to actually scroll down, and this little dialog box pops up on the bottom that allows you to choose the file. You can choose the file that you had. I don't remember where mine is. I think it was in documents, but it could have been in download. But you pick the file, your Word document, open that up. So now you've got your doc or docx or PDF there, and then you can go ahead and click submit assignment. And then it'll upload the assignment and it'll have this little submitted, completed on the upper right hand corner. Okay. If you're struggling with this aspect of it, I will have my office hours today from 2:30 to 3:30. So I'm happy to help you with that process. And you can always email me and I'll try to help you through the process, or we can set up a quick Zoom meeting to help with the process too. So if that was too rushed for you, I'm happy to help in office hours with that. But I bet you that Alex and Liz are pros at this by now too, so they could probably help out in the next hour. Okay. Sorry to keep you a little bit over. And I'm going to go ahead and pass the host torch over to Alex, and I'll be here for the next couple minutes in the chat if you want to do like a quick chat to me or whatever. But otherwise, I'll leave you guys with Alex.
Can you stop sharing your screen? My thing's not working again.
Okay, so we're gonna give everyone a 5-minute break and then just come back 12:16.